All right. Welcome to the conversation. I am Crissy Rollins, and I am here with one of my dear friends and collaborative partners in life and all things holistic and love rooted and based, Joy Askew. And we have been starting this conversation around the hero's journey and how can we bring that concept into our life, recognize that we are on our own hero's journey, and to embrace this concept in a deeper understanding of the hero's journey to better understand ourselves, where we're at in our lives, what life is asking of us, and how to move forward in a more peaceful, empowered, and fulfilled way. And we kicked this conversation off last month. So if you missed it, I highly encourage you to find the replay video, which I will post a link below this once we get this up and posted. You should find a link right below here. Back over to that to kind of catch up with the introduction to the hero's journey, an overview of it, and now we're taking this step by step and looking at each individual piece so that again we can take these concepts, recognize where we are in our own life's journey and our own hero's journey, and be able to leverage this wisdom in a way that brings us more of what we know, want, and desire for our lives. So today's focus, we are bringing the conversation around the call to adventure. And there's a few different questions that we already have on deck that we have on our hearts that we'd love to explore with you. And we do have some other live participants here on the call as well. So as we open up this conversation, if there's anything in particular that sparks up for you, feel free just to chime in and jump into the conversation. And just know that we're also here with some prompt questions to really make sure that this is a rich and fulfilling experience for everybody. So with all of that being said, Joy, I would love to just turn it over to you and let you kick off this conversation, because you really are the one who came back in touch with the hero's journey and felt such a connection to it that you were prompted to put this series together and offer it out here so that we can all learn and integrate these concepts. So when it comes to the call of adventure, what comes to your heart, Joy? And I just unmuted you, so you're good to go.
Okay. First of all, I just want to say how cool it is. I think that I could see on your wall my artwork. Look on the wall behind me, there is your artwork right there.
Love it. Love it.
Oh, I was talking with Crissy just briefly before we had others join us about a term I came across this morning that just absolutely, it was like a gong, like a gong going off in my heart. It resonated so strongly, and it resonated so strongly that I started a new piece of art, and it says on it, I always inject energy into my artwork with words and colors before I get going on what it eventually turns out to be. And this one is deep play. Sit with that for a minute. Just deep play. Oh, to me, that is freedom. Freedom. Because really, if I'm really, really totally honest, all I ever wanted was for my life and other people's lives to be magical. And the thing is, mine has become that way. And it is this deep play with the universe, with the divine, this meaning and purpose and intention, which is how I and Crissy and others we know are undertaking our own personal hero's journeys. And the most amazing thing about it is that it does create this this level of of living, not just consciousness, but actual, it plays out in your life in a very, very magical way. And that's why I'm so excited to be exploring with y'all this hero's journey, this monomyth, this this process that every hero goes through in his or her journey to individuation, to transcendence, to enlightenment. And that is what the call to adventure is, really. This we're going over the first section, the first really steps that you take on your hero's journey. And the first step is really being called out of the ordinary world, the 3D, limited, disappointing, fearful world that we have been programmed to believe, and into a supernatural and extraordinary, not only world, but way of being. And the call, the first question that we were going to answer today is, what is the call to adventure? And I would like to add to that, like, what is doing the calling? You know, what does it look like in our lives? And what is it that is calling us? So, Crissy, I'm going to let you start diving into those.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you for all that you shared. Now, I will say this too. Deep play resonates really deeply with me. Like, as soon as you said the words, it hit home for me, because I've been able to incorporate a lot of different perspectives and experiment and play around with life to where I can take it on as a God playing with God experience, and really real life integrating that into my daily experiences. So I get the power of the words deep play, but I definitely want to hear from the other ladies that are on the line. If they feel called to speak out towards that, I definitely want to hear your thoughts on that. If that deep play is something that resonates with you, because it is such a striking contrast to how we adults are shown to live life. It's very work focused, very serious. And there's a sense that if we're not working, if we're not taking things serious, if we're not being responsible, if we're not doing all the things, that it's all going to come crashing down, and it's all going to go falling apart. And for a lot of us, we are working so hard, we are taking it so serious, and we're still watching it crumble and slip from our fingers. So it's this massive intenseness that makes me feel like, how in the world can you even talk about play at a time like this?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm interested to know if other people are having that thought as well. And I am going to answer what you directed over to me, as far as like, what is this call to adventure, and what is it that's doing the calling? Now, we are not here to prescribe any particular set of beliefs or filters or thought process or dogma or anything like that, as far as what language and ways that you interpret this divine spirit, this unseen energy that is here and present in all things. Now, whether you take that on scientific terms or more religious terms or whatever, we're fine with that. So whenever I think about this idea, if we move beyond the what being like a who, or the what being like this elusiveness that is or personifying it, let me say it that way, personifying it as a person or an entity that's doing the calling, and instead really put it into practical, tangible terms. Anybody who follows all the things that I talk about, y'all know I like to make it really practical, really tangible. So when I think about what is calling for me, and what that call of adventure was for me, or at least one of them, and not to spoil it future question that we're going to explore on. Is there just one? Is there more of them? But one that comes to my mind in particular, it wasn't so much a Crissy, and it wasn't like a phone call, right? These are the things that come to our mind. It wasn't that booming voice from above, or even necessarily a booming voice from within. What happened for me was like a tugging. It felt like a tugging, a pulling. It's like when I sat with a thought to go into a new direction, my body felt like it wanted to lean forward. And I don't know how to explain it other than that. I felt a tugging, and it felt like it kind of came from like the center of my chest, a tugging. And when I thought about staying where I was or continuing the course, everything felt like shutting down. Like I felt sick to my stomach. I felt like I wanted to like physically be ill. There was like a retraction. So for me, what is calling? It was a heart's whisper. It was a desire. It was a yearning. It was a thought that came to my mind of how my life could be better, could be more expansive, could be more, how I talk about it now, aligned with what it is that I believe I came here for and what it is that I really want to be doing with my life. And as I sat with that thought and I felt it pull my body forward and I felt that expansiveness happen, it was something that I had to explore and was something that I couldn't really ignore. And it was definitely before I got the language to put the pieces together over what was happening. So that's the way that I always have described it. It was like a tugging, a pulling, a longing, an urging, a craving, a desire. And all of that comes from a thought, pictures in my head of what it could maybe possibly be like in another situation. So that to me is like what it was. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know anything more than what I shared when we introduced this conversation back on the last video. So watch that for a more in-depth dive into this. But I didn't know anything more than, if I believe that everything has a purpose and I am here, I am part of this purpose, therefore what could that be? And that surrender into that followed with that calling towards a direction. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but I'm going to go in this direction. I'm going to explore this. I'm curious about that. That's what it looked like for me. So I'm feeling really complete with that share, and I'll open it up. Just so you ladies know, all of you are muted out. So if you want to step forward and join the conversation, if you want to speak to this concept of deep play, or if you want to speak towards, this call of adventure, what it felt like to you, what you feel is calling, or any direction you want to take it, I turn it over to you ladies. Enjoy, I got you.
Okay, great.
Got you unmuted.
I'll share mine too, but the call to adventure can be, there's as many individuals on this planet as they are. The call can be that many, everybody's is different. But it can come about through crises in your life, through like relationships, health. It can come from depression. That depression is usually a really strong voice from the universe telling you that there is something more than this. That's how mine came. However, I ignored mine the first time around, which typically when the hero ignores the call the first time, they end up in a really bad, worse situation than they were to begin with when they got the call. And that was my case too. And so when the second call came around, which was, the first call was around my first Saturn return, the second call around my second Saturn return, coming up to it. And I was so lost by then that it literally took the hand of God, the divine, injecting me with this love, to wake me up and giving me that taste of something that I had totally forgotten existed. And all it took was a taste, but that taste is what pulled me forward, like Crissy was saying. And it's irresistible, really, unless you do resist it. You have a choice. You have a choice. And then in my case, what I believe what is calling me forward is my higher self. Is my divine me. Is the fullness of what I am. And I believe that part of me is God. And I believe that right now, it's not only important, it's vital that each one of us answers this call. And the call is to become the fullness of yourself, which is your gift to the world, and your boon, which you ultimately will bring back into the ordinary world in order to help all those people that are still there living ordinary 3D lives, is your particular God-given divine talent, it's your specialty in this world, however that looks. Whether you are what Crissy is, or whether you are what I am, or, but not really, because you're yourself. It's that uniqueness that is what it's all about. That is what individuation is. That is what the Carl Jung and so many other enlightened teachers are talking about. And so, do we have anyone that what?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you, Joy. I'm following right along with everything that you're saying. And I love how you're bringing in that own unique expression and our fullest expression. And I've been in this space for a while. My community certainly hears me speak about it of oh gosh, where did my mind just go? Of testing the boundaries of something, but I'm trying to come back around to it. Like what if all these agitations that we feel from other people, what if all these frustrations and the way that we feel repressed and stifled from others, what if all of that is none of that, but truly us suppressing ourselves and us stopping ourselves and what we dislike about that person because we can't say this or that around them is really us suffering from our own self-suppression and not truly anybody else stopping us from doing anything. So makes me even more curious like that. I have spoken before about how that agitation, how life kind of agitates us forward. That agitation, that rub, that desire, that yearning for something more, that illness that wakes you up and says, okay, seriously, I for real have to stop with the daily donuts. Whatever that thing is, that depression that keeps you in bed, whatever that thing is that makes you break out of patterns and rhythms and routines that you have got yourself in that's creating this limited life experience that we think is external, but really it's internal because we're the ones that's making the choices. That can only be answered by speaking up for, giving voice to what you're holding within, expressing outwardly what is being, denied. And for some of us, it looks like the art that's hanging on Joy's wall or the art that's hanging on my wall. And as you notice, like I did some, she did some, none of it looks the same, and it could never look the same. And if you think you got to make art that hangs on walls in order to make a difference, you're missing the fact that in every moment you are your own artistic display. You are an artist with everything that you create in your life, and you're a living work of art that is unique, that is original, that cannot be replicated, cannot be duplicated, that has a purpose, that is here for inspiration. And if you can turn that hero's journey, you can turn that inquiry towards learning who you are to answer, how can I be all that Crissy just said? You may find a different answer than what you're finding when you're continually looking outward at these other characters and rascals that are along your path and these other circumstances around you that seem to be limiting or challenging you. What if they're not limiting you or challenging you, but what if they're challenging you to free yourself of your own self-imposed limitations? And that's the real challenge, and that's the real limit that you're facing. Don't know where all that came from, but that was
And that's
fun.
the real journey. Yeah, that's the real journey, is going inside and discovering all these things about yourself. You know,
Gives me
you
chills.
have to get to know yourself. And we really, in our society nowadays, we're not taught to do that. We're not even given the chance to do it. Because we're so busy and we're so distracted, and we're working so hard to make it all work, you know. And I want to caution people also, because I remember when I didn't know I received the calling for, I thought that this dissatisfaction, this yearning for something more, I thought it was me being ungrateful, because I had a good life. I had two beautiful children. I had an amazing husband. We had our own home. We had good jobs. I thought it was just me being ungrateful. I just look back at myself with such compassion.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty common thing. I hear that a lot. Who am I to want more?
Mm-hmm.
Who am I to want more than what I see other people have, whenever I already know that I have more than what some other people have?
Mm-hmm.
And Joy and I are here having this conversation to say, who are you not to? Who are you not to? And perhaps that what you're bumping up against is, again, that limiting thought that your desire for more means something about you that butts up with a belief that you're holding about you. Or at least explore it from that angle and see where it lands you at. And it's interesting because, you brought up hard work again. And this idea of like answering a bigger calling or becoming a hero, that sounds hard because I certainly didn't self-identify as a hero, right? And I guess that's why you have to learn who you are. That's the hero's journey. It's not really what you do outwardly necessarily. Am I spoiling the ending of the series? Not necessarily that outward, but more that inward.
It's that spiritual, that identity.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were texting the other day,
Mm-hmm.
There really should be a whole lot, like fields of spirituality around identity. Who are you? Like you said, identifying as a hero, but I think even more importantly, to get to the real truth, we are all children of God. The creator of all of this. We are all children of that. We have the DNA of the creator. And we are meant to harness, wield these divine powers for good. That, to me, is a real hero. We have to own it. You have to really get to know it and own it. But it works. It just like works. So the next question we were going to answer was, why are some called and some not? And is that true? Because it looks like some people just aren't ever, in their lifetime. And they seem perfectly content, So this is like a real philosophical question, because we can't impose our own experience on anybody else, no matter how how much it's been studied, and it seems like this is the prevalent thing that people, heroes, go through, and that in order to really individuate and become enlightened, this is what we have to do. So why aren't some people doing it, right? And even like they don't do it and then they die. It's a question to ask. Of course, I believe in reincarnation, so I'm like, well, if you don't get it in this lifetime, and who's to say whether somebody does or not, then I believe that, as the Buddhists do, that you take from this lifetime into the next two things, your virtue and your wisdom gained. So I believe you just pick up where you left off, basically, and start all over again.
I gotta say, whenever you started talking about this, or some called, some are not called, it started to feel very much like a judgment. Like, how can we judge? Much like you said, you don't really know what somebody's experiencing within themselves, and who are we to say that somebody who isn't their fullest self isn't their fullest self?
Mm-hmm.
And those that aren't on this hero's journey in a consciously expressed way, the way that you and I are talking about it, who's to say that they're not, or not even aware of it? Perhaps it's a language thing. This was something that a little tip towards anybody who is struggling, where you've had massive personal and spiritual development, and you're partnered with, or you have somebody significantly weighted in your life that is not, and you feel like you're mismatched, you feel like you're on two different worlds, you feel like you're on two different planes right now. I invite you to consider, stop looking at them as if they're not on a spiritual path, and see how things change for you.
Mm-hmm.
See how it changes for you. And so as I think about that, it's like, the first thought that crossed my mind is, well, I believe we all are on this hero's journey. We're all on this fuller expression of ourselves kind of journey, but it certainly appears like some are not. It certainly seems that way. And it certainly seems like some go all the way through. And how can we really define what the fullest expression or the fullest fulfillment is? But we certainly have had those experiences with individuals that have seemed to always bring a not enjoyable conversation to the table, and they don't seem very fulfilled and happy in their life, and they do pass on in that state of mind and in that expression and in conversation with us. It is hard to say that that's somebody's fullest expression, but a character like that, whenever it comes through my world, the way that I define it is, that's the script that they were cast. That's the part that is their fullest purpose expressed within the world that I live, for what I need, and within other people's realms. So it kind of makes me think, I use this analogy quite often, of a marble slab, and turning that into an amazing statue like David. In order to make that happen, it's not just the marble slab that gets carved into it that makes the masterpiece. It's also those pieces that get chipped away. They agree to do their part by falling away in the process, which is quite honestly the only way I can handle the massive increase in the number of people taking their own lives during these really tumultuous, intense, shifting times. And that's why I feel prompted to have more conversations like this and bring it to the table, so that if your call to adventure is massive suffering, or expressing itself in this major suffering way that's causing you a lot of angst, that you may start to ease into another experience of yourself and your life experience, and allow it to be a more gentle process, so that you can understand what is happening within you and around you, relax into it, or at least take on a perspective that brings you more peace and fulfillment, and actually benefits everybody else around you too. So we find it to be a real win-win, to try on to size. But yeah.
So do we get called more than once?
Interesting question, right? Is it this is where my mind just went to. Now I can think of, what's interesting is that how I've learned to teach in a practical, tangible way has been me living through a life experience, then looking back and realizing like, oh, that's what they were talking about, or that's what that means. So I have to say, at least once or twice of going through this call to adventure, I was not aware that it was happening at the time, because I didn't have that conscious connection to what was happening. I was just going with what felt right to me at the time. So since I think back and I'm like, well, that felt like a call to adventure, and that felt like a call to adventure, that felt like a call to adventure. But what if all those little calls was just the call to adventure expressing itself in one bite-sized little morsel at a time, so I don't freak the you know what out and like jump ship because it's too daunting of a task or too overwhelming, even if it is something that's magnificent. And I gotta say this too, when I think about big, when I think about magnificent, I've recently been kind of like shifting things in my mind some to, you know, ease off some of those levels of conditioning around being famous and being successful and that sort of thing. And the more that I really ease into this place of, it's not big as in everybody in the world knows you and you're on the Tonight Show, if that even still exists, right? But I'm talking about big within fulfillment, within your own heart, within your own life, that savoring, that sinking your teeth into that don't pinch me because I don't want to wake up kind of life experience. That's what I think is the bigger thing. And when we think of seeing that and seeing ourselves so full and happy, it's a weird thing to think, oh, I wouldn't want that, or that's overwhelming. But for a lot of us, because we start to see that image once all these other thoughts and ideas and conditioning around who we are have set in and have been shown to us, it can feel like a wild juxtaposition and just another setup for more letdown or failure or more things to be fearful of. So didn't mean to stop your thought, Joy, but
no, it's perfect. Yeah, I experience it like, you know, like there's this big umbrella call, you know, this big journey, and then these little sub journeys within that have to deal with different aspects of my life. You know, they say there's, you know, depending on who you talk to, like pillars, you know, in your life, like your creativity and your relationships and your finances and your health and this and that. And I have found that as I have, you know, consciously been on my journey, that each one of these pillars presents itself to me as a call to adventure deeper into it and into truth about it. Really, it's all a journey towards truth and living truth. And so, yeah, I think there's, you know, like there's this one trajectory which includes all these other ones, with ultimately, you know, they all contribute to that deep fullness, you know, that when you carry that with you along the journey, you know, it's not like you have to get there and then you get full, you know, you are like full the whole way because you are, first of all, committed, and you are giving this, you're the meaning maker, you know, and you're the purpose fulfiller. And you are this the whole way along because of your commitment. That fullness just starts to unveil all of these particulars in your life, like appearing on the Tonight Show, you know. But that's not the goal. It's just like a symptom of what you you know are living.
just that natural side effect.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, let's see. We got 22 more minutes, but we probably want time for questions. So let's get to can we prepare for the journey? So like, are there tips? Are there tools? Are there, like, how's the best way to do this?
Great questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
A guide to being a hero. Well, I can tell you there's a book on how to train a dragon, or how to train a dragon. And there's a book on how to be a pirate. My daughter and I have been reading those. So yeah, it's a great question. I would love to know your thoughts on this, or if any of the ladies on the line want to speak out to this.
Just real quickly, I'll start off with, because I just mentioned it, truth. For me, that's been like my biggest, battle sword, to slay my own dragons, which is really or tame them, really, integrate them at least. But truth, you just will not get far if you don't adopt a lifestyle of truth, and that is mainly telling yourself the truth about yourself with love and compassion and patience and understanding all the time. All the time. You have to start there with yourself and honor yourself, because when you lie to yourself, you're really not honoring yourself at all. And the more you really value truth in your own self, the more you start valuing it in the world, and really interestingly, the more able you are to see it, not only in yourself, but in the world. And you can see things that other people can't see because they are not being truthful with themselves about themselves. And this is really where the magic begins. Because when you see truth, when other people can't see it, that's pretty freaking magical. And also, it's at first it's rather scary because, like, you have to trust yourself and you have to trust what you're seeing without any validation from anybody else. So truth is huge to even begin this journey, I think.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And for anybody who's in the Conscious Success Cooperative, if you have not caught the deep dive video that I did yesterday, definitely check it out, because this is exactly what I was speaking to. This truth that Joy was talking about, and living into a more truthful expression of yourself. It's such a humbling experience when you can really try it on for size. And I think that this is my answer to that question on, can we prepare for the journey? I have a deep belief that you can prepare for this journey. Being able to engage in conversations like this, just understanding what could be happening, giving some kind of framework or context to put what is happening in your life and within you into, that shifts it and allows it to be something different than the viewpoint that you've been looking towards. I think that that's so helpful for the journey. I'm not convinced that it's absolutely 100% necessary. I know some people would definitely argue that it's absolutely necessary to have someone who's ahead of the game and guiding you along that's been down that path. I honestly, I don't know. I've had a lot of people that come across my path, so I know that journey, right? And as these people came across my path, and as they helped to show me the way, and as I took everything that they were bringing to the table and could kind of interweave it and integrate it and live it into my life, I found that I had a way to really break it down and make it practical and make it tangible. And I saw the value of that and the value that it had in my life, and that I could share it with other people, and that it took these personal experiences that I was having and made them universal, and other people could try them on for size. And that's a big inspiration behind my business and the direction that I take it in now. And I've created forums like the Conscious Success Community, that's just an open forum on Facebook that people can be a part of. Open in the fact that anybody can join it. You just have to request to come in. Closed in that whatever you post there doesn't get blasted out publicly on Facebook, so that we can have these conversations. I started my cooperative community for those that were ready to put a little skin in the game and get a little bit more deeper into the journey, and created protocols that help to support people to walk through these processes. And I even have an amazing opportunity for people that are local and even at a distance. You can turn into this opportunity that is starting in just a couple weeks. September 15th, we're kicking it off. We actually have early bird pricing. My partner and I that I'm collaborating with for this series, we discussed it and we said, you know what, let's extend early bird through Labor Day weekend. We're going to do Labor Day specials anyway. Let's extend it through the weekend. So right now, if you watch this within about 72 hours of this recording, you can even cash in on the early bird savings to partake in an Awakened Leadership series, where we're doing just this very same thing. We're breaking down the aspects of what that really means, what's really going to be asked of you, and what's required to take that next step into leadership. And maybe that's being more of a leader within your own life as you lead yourself on this journey. Or maybe that looks like doing what Joy and I have started doing and taking these conversations out to the public, or bringing a certain modality to the world, whatever that looks like to you. I know a lot of yoga teachers and yoga teacher trainees are going to be signing up for this course. So if you're looking to take that next step in leadership, this is the perfect program to walk you through exactly. It's like your permission slip. And it will take away your excuses as to why you need or why you shouldn't start now. And it allows you to move forward in a more clear, more empowered way, no matter what that next level of leadership looks like for you. So if you want more information about that, I'm going to make a note right now. I'll drop a link to, you can check that out, get all the details and sign it up. And yes, I think that you can prepare for the journey. And let me say this very important caveat. All this preparation doesn't carry you down the journey for you. My courses don't come in and fix your life for you, but you can take what is being offered, what you're being invited to engage with, and you can experiment with it in your own life, and you can create a new truth for yourself, and you can create a new life experience for yourself, and you can decide if it's something that you want to continue with, or if you'd rather keep doing what you're doing. And that's what I think is kind of like the crux of this question. Can you prepare for the journey? Yes, but no, because you don't really know it until you go through it. I listened to a lot of concepts. I went to a lot of workshops. I filled out a lot of journal prompts. I did those things, but it wasn't until I actually walked it, talked it, lived it, breathed it as if it was a truth, in order to experiment to see how much truth it held for me. So that part, nobody can do for you. You can't really be prepared for it because you really don't know. It's kind of like childbirth for any mamas out there who have gone through the natural childbirth experience. Heck, even a C-section, I'm sure, is probably not quite what you thought you signed up for whenever you went through it all. But the concept of it versus the reality, it's something you simply can never know. Marriage is kind of like that. A lot of things are like that. There's the concept, then there's the reality, living, breathing it. And nobody who's bringing you a concept can live it, breathe it for you. I can help to tweak it. I can help to set you up for it. I can help to put the right lens into place. I can help you to shift those things. And I think that those resources are out there, but to actually get you to embody it, to walk it, like that's on you. And that's where the magic happens. And that's where you realize, I am prepared. I can do this. This is where you build your self-trust. It's where the magic happens. It's the fear, the limitation, all that stuff that on this side, it's the action and going through with it that you find that liberation. At least I find that to be true. So that part, nobody can do for you. You can't really prepare for it, but you can get a concept, you can have a game plan, you can relax into it, you can feel more confident, and you can certainly link arms with others.
And part of this call to adventure is that you are given, the universe gives you a mentor in some form or the other. It can be like a real life person like Crissy. It can be like someone that you may never meet, like a living icon like the Dalai Lama. It can be someone who's been dead for thousands of years, like Jesus or like Aristotle, but you are given someone to be, to really guide you into the unknown, into the supernatural, into the magic.
It makes me think of plants, in that when I think about the hero journey now, then what you need in order to navigate it is built into the hero journey. So it's kind of like a plant, everything that it needs, all the intelligence, everything that's saying, okay, now extend that root a little bit further, go over to the left, now reach that little shoot up, now unfurl the leaf, like all that intelligence, it's packed into our journey too. This is a deep rooted belief that I have, or at least one that I'm allowing to integrate more deeply into my life, which interestingly enough, as you integrate this stuff in, whatever it's not like, it starts to come up. So you're going to start to feel a lot more doubts than what you think whenever you anchor in these concepts and these ideas. But I love this concept that not only, like, it's almost like you don't even have to prepare for the journey, because you already are prepared for the journey.
You just have to surrender to it, really.
Oh,
really.
we just need to have a surrender series.
But to know that these things are along your path, because in addition to your mentor, you are given some form of supernatural aid. Okay, in my case, it was meditation and Reiki that allowed me to. They were just the exact right tools I needed in order to take this journey, to get me balanced enough to actually undertake the steps that I needed to take. And then along the way, there were other supernatural aids too, but those two were very early in my, and also actually sacred plants were part of my journey very early on. And as in, to know that these things are they're in every hero's journey, so they're going to be in your hero's journey too. And that's what the monomyth is. If it's true for one, it's true for everyone. And also as you make the commitment, that saying, when you commit yourself and doors open that were not even there before. It's true, very true. And you also, one of the most amazing gifts of all that you're given, as you commit yourself and step into this unknown, unordinary world, is your friends and allies. Like, one of my gifts was Crissy.
And ditto, having somebody that's walking that path with you to remind you that everything's going to be okay and that it's okay to do things differently and to challenge life as you know it. Because it's really what we're doing, this hero's journey, which is pretty brave. It's quite courageous.
It is.
I think that's why more women get on the spiritual path than men, but that's just me being kind of cheeky.
Oh.
So we got just a few more minutes. I know that these other ladies have been sitting here listening and soaking it all in. I don't know if anyone is in a spot to share or not, and no pressure at all. Just wanted to make sure that we give space for thoughts and reflections. Oh, Caroline, you're still muted. I can see that you unmuted on the computer, but I'm not hearing you come through. Try now. Nope, not hearing you.
Can she type?
I thought that I heard you when I was before. If you want to type it in, I can read it too. Do you want to use the chat?
Does she see the chat?
Yeah, I think so. Cool. And I know Rachel had sent a message saying that she was going to be popping in and out, so figured she'd be stepping forward if she could. Oops. Oh, yay. Rachel says she is still here. So, okay. Caroline said that she is just thankful to hear all this. It's a new concept. Certainly Call to Adventure was clear for me after many tugs for years. Oh, are you unmuted now, Caroline? Or no, that was Joy. Okay. Gotcha. Yes, I think that that's not unusual, feeling that tug. For me, I remember it was like this phase that I went through that at least this was like the most tangible, pivotal moment that I can really connect to. That was total instinct. That was me taking a leap into the unknown, taking a complete faith walk, which is what this hero's journey is all about. Not traveling down the path that you're set down, but traveling down the one less traveled, maybe by everybody, maybe just by yourself, to explore life in a more full way. But I remember that it started out that I saw that something had to change. It was kind of like that want or that need or that desire or that curious, or wouldn't that be nice if? And I would think like, wouldn't that be nice if? And then, but it was like too scary of a thought. Like I would get so scared as soon as I was like, wouldn't that be nice? But no, I'm terrified. And then eventually it changed to where I was excited when I had the thought, and then afterwards realized that it might be a little bit scary. So it was that shift whenever that tug that I mentioned before, and Caroline can definitely identify with, that tug got to be stronger, and I was more comfortable with that tug than I was with that uncertainty, with continuing life as I knew it to be. So I don't think it's unusual to like put it off or to like ignore it at first, but eventually it'll get your attention. Yes. And Rachel says I need to watch the first one. Definitely, Rachel. I will. I'll drop it in the comments whenever this gets posted afterwards, so you can check it out, and feel free to share. Invite other people into this conversation. See if they relate to it. It's always great to open more doors of higher level conversations with people. I've started a monthly in-person women's group that meets just to have more conversations like this in person and to connect with more like-minded people. I do 2 in-person leadership meetings a month for that same reason, to bring people together and have these kind of conversations. So I think it's important that we start them, that we stay in them, and much like was mentioned already a couple times, this busyness, this distraction, this hard work, don't let that interfere with your life that you came here to live. And it's going to stay there, doing its thing, being a distraction, letting you do your thing until you decide to make a change. And when you decide to make the change, life meets you. I remember when I first had a thought of quitting my job and starting being a massage therapist, or even just going to massage school, it was, just this at the time, I'm looking at all the different school schedules and I'm looking at my work schedule and like nothing's possible. And I'm looking at the fees and I'm like, how's this all going to work out? But then it did. It all just fell into place. I got into the program that worked around my schedule and it all just happened. And a lot of times we sit here and we wait for the resources to be revealed or until everything lines up, or we're so much more focused on our plan B for when it doesn't work out. If we could just learn to harness some of that energy and shift more of it towards trusting ourselves, following our truth, daring to be curious and expressing our curiosities out there, instead of just being so certain of how they're going to react and what's going to happen next, or what you're capable of, or what this is leading you to, or whatever else that can get you distracted, or what you have to do, or other people are demanding of you. I know it can be overwhelming to think about, how can I even do this when life is so demanding? Like, I don't even have space to watch this video. Don't even know how I made it to this point. In fact, I skipped ahead. That's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's just start with the curiosity. Start with reflecting back. Where in your life have you felt a calling for something more? Where have you answered it? Maybe it was, I'm done with high school. I'm going to go on to college. Maybe it's, I'm done with that guy. I'm going to move on to something better, right? There's somewhere in your life that you have taken this brave, courageous leap of faith into the unknown. You have dared to be more true to yourself. I'm getting chills on top of chills, and I'm starting to feel the waters rise. You've been a hero all along. Now, start to recognize that and see how you've done this over and over again. In fact, it's the only thing that keeps you moving forward. And focus, or invite you to consider focusing on that relationship with yourself as you go through this journey, and allow it to be a curious unfolding. Join something like the Awaken Leadership series. Continue to come month after month as we explore this in this series, because we're going to be coming back next month. We're going to be unpacking the next piece of the hero's journey. Let's put the pieces together, right? And learn from each other, continue to expand from each other. Know that you're not alone. And if this feels daunting, that's okay. It's okay. Just pay attention to the one who feels overwhelmed, because that's really what's trying to get your attention. And if it sounds exciting, I encourage you to lean toward it. And just know you're not going to be alone on the journey. We're going to be here for sure. I got you unmuted, Joy.
Okay, great, because I want to finish with two quotes about the hero's journey. One by Joseph Campbell, who is really the one who did the majority of the work that has led us to understanding this universal call. He says, the call to adventure signifies that destiny has summoned the hero. So it's destiny. You know, this is something you really cannot avoid without a lot of pain anyway.
I love that.
The world needs us to become heroes, the heroes that we are. And this one is, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, Phil Cousineau. He says, the journey of the hero is about the courage to seek the depths, the image of creative rebirth, the eternal cycle of change within us, the uncanny discovery, the uncanny discovery that the seeker is the mystery which the seeker seeks to know. The hero journey is a symbol that binds, in the original sense of the word, two distant ideas, the spiritual quest of the ancients with the modern search for identity. Always the one, shape-shifting, yet marvelously constant story that we find.
I love it, Joy. So, so rich and so powerful. And I'm going to end with this thought that you just prompted for me. It sounds like what is doing the calling and what you're being called toward is the same thing, which is God, which is destiny, which is you.
Mm-hmm.
And if this resonates with you, we would love to invite you to connect further with Joy or I one-on-one. We both do some pretty amazing work holding space for people in this journey. So if you're drawn to her or I, or want to connect further or have a one-on-one chat, you can definitely reach out to us. If you're interested in the Awaken Leadership series, I'm going to drop that below, along with a link to the first video, and also going to drop a link to where you can find Joy's art, because it's awesome and you should know where to find that as well, because she doesn't just make these lovely pieces for herself. She does commission work too. They're quite powerful and magical. I have several pieces. And sometimes my husband's like, can I put that one in my room? I'm like, no, that is mine. That is mine. So I'm going to drop links to that below. If you have been sparked by anything and you want to comment below, we welcome comments. We'd love to keep this conversation going. Connect with us on and offline, and see us back here next month, where we take the next step on this hero's journey. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.